I am a cafeteria Catholic, and so are you. Actually, I've been thinking that since we cannot call ourselves Roman Catholic, maybe we could switch our name to Cafeteria Catholic. Have you heard this pejorative description of people before? Usually, it is used as an offensive term to describe someone who picks and chooses what she or he likes from the fullness of the teaching of the Catholic Church. Not unlike you do in the cafeteria when you go for lunch or dinner. You pick and choose. You don't like green beans, so you pass them by. But instead you will have 2 helpings of the potatoes. So cafeteria Catholics are the people who pick and choose which teachings or which rules of the Roman Catholic Church they will live by, and which they will probably put somewhere on the back burner. Most American Catholics actually are cafeteria Catholics as well, because study after study has shown that very few Roman Catholic families obey the teachings about, for example, artificial contraception. So if you have ever used any artificial contraception methods, you should proudly call yourself a cafeteria Catholic. If you think that, forgive my French, testicles are not required to be a priest, you are cafeteria Catholic. If you believe that having a hamburger on Friday before 1970s did not bring you to hell, you are cafeteria Catholic. All these rules that we choose to follow or choose to ignore make us cafeteria Catholics. So even though people who use that term intended to be offensive, I think we should wear it as a badge of honor on our sleeves, because we use our brains, we use our conscience to decide which of the teachings of the Bible and the Church make sense today and which are simply outdated or sometimes even unjust. It is not something that we at St. Stanislaus invented. It's not something that we as Americans invented in the 60s and 70s. People since day 2 have been arguing which of the commandments, rule, prescriptions, instructions of the Bible can and should be followed and which can be ignored. Some rabbis in the 2nd century counted all the rules and commandments of the Hebrew Bible, and they have come to a number of 613. 365 of those is thou shalt not, and 248 is thou shalt. So there are more thou shalt nots than there are thou shalts, but even the rabbis decided it is impossible, it is practically impossible to follow and fulfill all those rules and commandments. So it should come to you as not surprise that someone finally asked Jesus, "Sir, with 613 commandments, which do you think that really matter? Which are the very essential part of our identity as good Jews?" And if you would ask that question to someone who just passed his or her bat mitzvah, they probably would say maybe 10 Commandments, or listen, Israel, the Lord is your God and there is no other. I doubt that any rabbi or teacher in Palestine in the first century would put these two obscure quotations together. Because if you remember well, and I do pray you do, remember your 10 Commandments, right? There is no love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul in 10 Commandments, is there? Nope. It's an obscure quotation from a book not even in the Exodus section. And then loving your neighbor as yourself is nowhere near these 10 Commandments. So Jesus is unique and revolutionary in putting these two together, in basically reducing 613 to two that make fundamental sense. I think Jesus was a cafeteria Jew by choosing those two. As a matter of fact, he was rightly accused of breaking multiple commandments. I bet you remember the story after story in the gospel when the Jews accused him, why do you not keep the Sabbath? Why do your disciples not wash their hands before they eat? Why you sit with the tax collectors and sinners? All these rules you constantly break. Yep, he was a cafeteria Jew. No doubt about it. He chose and picked which rules make sense and which should be put in a museum, maybe on some nice exhibition. Actually, it might surprise you, but if Jesus was a Twitter user, this would be a perfect Twitter statement. You shall love your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, period. Space. You shall love your neighbor as yourself, period. Do you know how many characters is this? 140. Perfect number for a perfect Twitter post. So this is your homework today. If you have a Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, make this your statement this evening or tomorrow morning. You shall love your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, period. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Exactly 140 characters. If you can reduce and juice all the 613 commandments to two sentences, these two matter. These two make ultimate sense. Everything else is important. Everything else makes sense or used to make sense. But if something goes against these two, if something is unkind to your neighbor, to your God, or to yourself, that should be ignored, that should be left behind, that should be responded to with, no, thank you, I don't like green beans today. Be proud of being cafeteria Catholic, because so was Jesus, and so we are all. Amen.